Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome to, what is this, episode 17 of Climbing the Ladder. I'm your host, Champman V, and co-hosting with me as always is John Clark, CSN. and Mark Faraz of Quantic Gaming. What's up, guys? Yeah, pleasure to have you guys, as always. And our guests today are Frank Fields of IPL and James mouzKaelaris Carrol of ESL. All right, guys, this is gonna be a fun day. But I have to say, man, I'm experiencing some like serious Olympics withdrawal today. I'm like used to watching my badminton and fencing, you know, like kind of on my side screen while doing work. But
The anthem, man. The anthem is always the Olympics.
oh shoot, hold on guys, I have to switch you guys over. Shoot, I just realized that they can't hear you yet. Okay, here we go.
I like didn't watch any of the Olympics, even though it's in my own country, other than the fencing, because I'm a fencer. So other than that, it doesn't really matter.
I can't believe you didn't watch any of it, man. It was a pretty good Olympics.
So would that mean on like really serious topics of matter that you're on the fence?
Oh God. Oh my God.
I'm glad I have a wall next to me.
Wow.
Seriously.
Wow.
What a way to start off. Thanks, man.
Exactly, man. But yeah, the Olympics were great. So did any of you other guys watch the Olympics?
I watched a little bit. I actually don't have cable TV right now, and I barely watch TV as is, so I saw maybe 3 hours of it in total.
Oh yeah, God.
Does that make me un-American?
No, of course not.
No, it was horrible coverage, I thought. I didn't watch much of it either.
Oh yeah, the coverage was sus. I mean, it's always weird when the time changed and they, you know, like basically prime.
John never has anything good to say about anything, right? He's always
That's right. Very negative guy.
Oh man.
Oh, I'm just kidding.
But man, yeah, but definitely, man, that feel. I wish there was some kind of feel to that in esports, man. Just that, I don't know. It's a very, like watching those guys, at least in some of those events where it's like, you know, there's no big money like at the end of the tunnel for them. It's just like all about getting that gold medal, you know, and whatever, all that lifetime investment into just getting that one gold medal is kind of a cool thing.
I don't know. I think getting a gold medal gives you quite a bit of money.
Yeah, it does, but
because okay, a little known fact is that because I'm a fencer, I was actually practicing 5 years ago. I was actually practicing for this Olympics before I moved out to Finland.
Oh, wow.
But didn't end up doing that obviously because I moved to Finland. So, but yeah, there's quite a bit of money in it. Not masses, obviously, but they still get a bit. So
like the synchronized swimmers get a lot of money.
I have no clue. Did you watch all the female events?
Did I watch the female events? I admit I watched like gymnastics.
Volleyball.
I watched the water
volleyball.
polo.
Yes.
Water polo was interesting.
Dude, those guys. I don't know how those guys. I mean, I can't even tread water for like 5 minutes, man. Much less like an hour, like those guys do.
I have a good story about this. So, hanging out with Team Liquid after the event, like they got into a giant debate about which is harder, running or swimming, and this argument lasted 2 days. They're like, what burns more calories? And surprised to learn, apparently it's actually running, but I still don't think swimming in water polo is any easy.
Really? Running? Wow.
Yeah, TLO was insisting that swimming was better, and Hotbid looked it up, and it wasn't at all.
Wow. Oh, because everything on the internet is true, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Wikipedia, bro.
Wikipedia, bro.
Like whenever in university, it's like, yeah, I'll just use Wikipedia to look up all my law facts and everything. I was like, no, don't cite Wikipedia, bro.
All right, why don't we get started with our topics here? Well, for those of you, I don't think I did a proper introduction here, but Frank is currently the IPL of the operations manager at IPL, and Frank also was the co-founder / owner too, or just co-founder and president?
Owner also, yeah.
Owner, of Team Rain, former Team Rain. So I'm sure he has a lot of stories to tell from that too. We actually had Brian on here like a while back, so talking a little bit about it. But it'll be interesting to get your take on some of that too. And then James here is the ESL Caster, and he's definitely spent some time at, I think before landing that great job, he was doing some casting with John at CSN. So a little bit of history here too. So hopefully not bad history.
Very good. It's great. Very good.
Yeah. But
I hope to work with them more, to be honest. But anyway.
very cool, very cool. But yeah, so let's start off with what we typically do here. We always start off with any kind of misconceptions in the industry that any of us want to talk about or think is running prevalent, and we always start off with a guess. So, Frank or James, do you have any misconceptions that you think should be cleared up in the industry right now?
To you, Frank.
Huh. All right. I'll do this one. I got two.
All right, cool.
The first one is that everyone is, and comes from Korean players a lot too, is that everyone over here in the U.S. and Europe is just making truckloads of money. That's not true at all. I worked in eSports for 6 years before I got my first paying job, which was a content manager at MYM for €100 a month. And I had that for a year before I got a job at IPL. So while there are some people that are making money in this industry, I would advise people to not make that a goal of theirs, because there is such a little chance that it'll actually pan out. The people on the show that make any income from esports at all are probably in the less than 1% of the people that try. So that's one thing.
Dude, we're supposed to encourage people to get into esports. What is this?
No,
dude?
no. All right, so you have to do it as a passion project. Like, that's how it has to start off. If you're like going into it trying to make money, you're in it for the wrong reasons, and it's not likely going to happen. So do it because you like it. That's my lesson. That I tell that to people all the time. Like, you have to actually like what you're doing, because chances are you're not going to make a whole lot of money from it. I just want to throw that one out there.
Yep.
I don't. People ask me all the time. I had people come up to me on stage when I was working the event. Like, how did you get your start at IPL? And I was like the answer is I applied. But that it's really hard to get to that point.
Right. Yeah.
I agree with you. I think that there's a common misconception as well. I mean, people say that, people, like, I don't know, I think there was a tweet a while back, by DJ Wheat saying that, oh, Mark only cares about making money. Owning a team in esports is not about making money. Like, there's just no money to be made really right now. I think if you are making money in esports, like you said, then you should consider yourself really lucky. But the reason that people do this, I don't think primarily is for money. Now, with that being said, I think sustainability and viability are really important. And I think we'd like to get to a point where that's possible, and the only way to get there is money, right? And funding specifically, but it's going to take some time, and I think that everybody's working really, really hard to get there, but it's just not there right now.
Yeah, I guess maybe a better clarification is, like, there's definitely not money in it right now, but
I mean, I think for a few teams and for a few leagues there is, but even then it's not like it's a whole lot of money. It's not like they're running 30% margins. I mean, it's just not.
Yeah, I think there's a difference, though. I think there will be money in it eventually. Absolutely. Especially seeing as how streaming is becoming a much more popular medium than TV. Like I said, I don't have cable TV right now. I watch everything online. And I think that more networks are going to be moving to that. And I think when that happens, esports will really start taking off even more. Because I really don't think we need TV. Because I think, in general, people are moving away from TV as a medium.
Yeah, but
I tend to agree with you there, too.
How's it going to help esports so much, though? I mean, because that just means everything on TV is just going to move online. So people are still just, I mean, it's still a competition for eyes, right?
It's already happening. It's already happening, like, with Apple TV and all these, like, streaming on-demand stuff. I mean, even the actual traditional TV I watch it, like, time delayed.
Yeah. Same with me. No commercial. Time delay.
30 seconds.
I didn't say that. No, I was kidding. But, yeah, definitely. So how about you, James? Any misconceptions?
I'm trying to think. All the while you were talking about that, I was just thinking about it, and I would agree. There is this conception, just in general, of that people think TV is the way forwards, and I'm in the same camp as Frank in the sense that I don't necessarily agree, because nowadays more and more generations coming are just not. Well, I assume they're just not paying attention to TV, because I don't watch TV at all anymore. If anything I want to watch, I'm just watching it online and stuff. So I would say that I can't really decide if TV is the way or not to be able to make this bigger and stuff. I would also agree with the fact that if you're going to get into esports for the money, it's not really the way to go. Like, I must admit, my road into esports wasn't as long as other people's. It was only like a year and a half's worth of free work to be able to get to the point where I am now, which is way shorter than a lot of people. A lot shorter.
Yeah.
So I was very, very lucky in that. And I would say that I'm in the higher percentile of people that earn in esports because I'm a caster, so casters get paid all right. But yeah, I just echo the sentiments, really.
Okay.
You know what? I want to clear something else, because just at the end, there is a huge misconception that every caster is making boatloads of money, and that's just not true at all either.
Yep.
I think it depends on the caster.
It depends on the caster. There are probably, and I don't know, you can tell me probably better than me, but I think maybe 10 to 14 casters in the world that can make that their primary job. Like English casters, I mean. Would you say that's about right?
I would, yeah, actually. And I'm very proud to say that I'm one of those. That's really cool. Yeah.
I mean, it's really not that many. Most, they have to do something else. And there was that huge, like, player versus caster argument that started a few months ago, and I thought that was the dumbest thing I've ever heard. There's tons of players that can't make it their primary living, and there's tons of casters that can't too. And you know what? I'm really glad that they're trying, and I really hope that everyone can. But that fight is stupid, and that fight needs to stop, because there isn't one side that has it better than the other. It's hard for players, it's hard for casters, it's hard for owners, it's hard for managers. The space is too small right now for everyone to be able to get the same pieces of the pie. And we need to stop fighting about who has more responsibility, who has less responsibility. And people need to realize that this is all fighting for exactly the same space and need to work together.
Right.
Players alienating casters and casters alienating players is not going to help anyone.
Yeah,
that goes for players and casters alienating organizations too.
Yeah.
They're trying to improve on things.
I want to briefly apologize, as I had to take that call, and it looked very rude on camera, but...
No, it's all good. It's all
apologies.
I agree with the same thing. I think that teams on teams is the same deal as well. I think that the teams really need to be able to work together to grow the entire space, and I feel like for some reason that's really hard. Every single time I've gotten into a conversation with all the top team owners, it always ends up devolving, and I don't know why that is. I mean, I think that... Well, just to, like everybody's interests, seem to be conflicting, but I really don't think that they are, because I feel like growing the entirety of the space is what we need to focus on. A rising tide rises all ships at harbor kind of concept.
Yeah, but the minute you throw some sort of sponsorship or opportunity for money in the middle of it, it just becomes a big cat fight for everyone trying to get that, that part of the pie.
Well, it's not just that. I mean, how much is the sponsors of the teams? How much of that kind of conflict is because of that?
Well, I think the fact that we have like a lot of exclusivity. I mean, if it's a traditional sponsorship model, I think that's okay. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's part of it. But I also think that there's like a whole slew of sponsors that if we work together, we could actually get. Like, I think landing an airline isn't possible for any of us. But I think Quantic, EG, Dignitas, Fnatic, SK, and Complexity together, maybe we could land an airline.
Yeah,
which one are you working on, so I can make sure not to call them? Because I've already called a few myself.
Yeah, and I think the problem is being able to guarantee them exposure. Like, if they're, I think that if it's a situation where no matter who wins, there is still going to be exposure. There's still going to be social promotion. There's still going to be stuff going on. But even then, they're just so cramped with margin right now as well, the airlines in particular. And maybe the airline's a bad example. I mean, maybe there's other examples out there. But everybody wants to bring in the big fish on their own right now. And I think that the industry overall is just kind of in this position where everybody feels like they're in a land grab and everybody wants to be the big fish. But the reality of the situation is that in order for the storyline to really be coherent, there can't be a quote-unquote big fish that controls everything. It cannot be Orwellian. It cannot be, tentacles into everything. I mean, it's just, I understand that we're all trying to get exposure for our sponsors and our players and everything like that, but I mean, the story is really what we're missing. And I feel like if we start telling the right story and we start telling the real story about what the players are going through and the sacrifices they're making and giving that to the fans, everything else starts to take care of itself. But we're not doing that. So that's my real talk for today.
Well, not everyone is doing it.
That's exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we do on this show, at least. But to kind of, I guess, kind of along those lines, it'd probably be a good segment into what, just the topics we're going to be going over today. And for those of you just watching the show for the first time, what we do is we kind of have each of the guests kind of take turns, kind of walking us through their esports experience, and then, we kind of have a variety of topics that are directed towards them, and the whole point is to really, see kind of some of the lessons they've learned along the way, and just kind of generate this kind of brainstorming session here. And we're going to start off with James, but again, like once we introduce these topics, it's always open discussion. Everybody just jump on in whenever they have a comment. Once actually, James has probably answered like the question, but why don't we start with that, James? Like, what's your esports history? I mean, you kind of alluded to a little bit already, in the beginning there, but why don't you provide some more detail?
For me, esports history isn't that long, actually. I took a few RTS games really seriously when I was a little younger, like Red Alert 2, but that was never an esport or anything by chance. So for me, esports really started with Starcraft 2. Obviously, I always followed Brood War, which was like 7 or 8 years worth. But esports for me really began with Starcraft 2, eventually realizing that I would never become a pro player because my mechanics were just never fast enough to be able to do so. Obviously, I play at a pretty high level. I play at Masters Random, but I would never have been able to bridge into that higher tier where I wanted to be involved in esports in some way. So I eventually started casting. I eventually started casting my own games as well as Protoss analysis, very, very specifically Protoss analysis, as I have a background in business and law from university. So I realized that it was important from the very get-go to establish myself a niche, and nobody was really focusing down on the Protoss strategy of that stuff. So I built up a little following on YouTube and stuff, not too big, but then I realized that I really wanted to branch out a little bit and start casting like just proper games, proper tournaments and stuff, which was all fun and dandy. And initially, one of the first places I ended up talking to was CSN after seeing some of their content on YouTube. So I emailed Andrew and said, hey, I would really, really like to, try and, get myself involved. Anything I can do for you guys, try and cast some of your tournaments, that'd be fantastic. And Andrew seemed very receptive of the idea, which is really cool because a lot of other places didn't seem receptive of the idea. Giving some kind of relative, well, very no-name guy an opportunity to actually step into this, world of craziness. But CSN gave me that, which was really cool of them. And from there, I just, well, long story short, in that period of time, worked my way up. And hey, I'm at ESL now, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, how did you land the ESL job? I mean,
It was partially... I mean, there's a lot of luck involved in landing casting gigs, I think. And there was a lot of luck involved in this as well. At the time, Ben and Kevin were transitioning onto NASL. Mm-hmm. And I... Initially, and again, there was another point in time where I was establishing myself as a caster and realizing the niche that I had, which was, hey, I'm an English caster living in Finland. I'm pretty sure there's not that many of those. So I started talking to, like, Set Pistefi, which is set.fi in Finnish, and said, hey, I could do some English coverage for your tournaments. And then started talking to them. And then eventually cast some of their national gigs, and it led on to some... my brother's just come in. Hello, Adam. That's weird. I haven't seen him for like a year, so that was a bit... and then from there, I ended up transitioning onto casting 1 or 2 series at Assembly Winter. So, but Ben and Caldor were there, and I impressed Ben apparently, and Mr. Bitter for people who don't know what Ben's alias is, and then he suggested me to IEM, ESL even, for the IEM World Championship Series, which was my first big cast, and then ESL after that offered me the job, so it was cool.
All right, good deal. Yeah, I mean Ben's part of the show too. He just hasn't been on for a few weeks, so not sure if you knew that or not.
Man. Like exactly. Seriously, I literally wouldn't be anywhere without Ben. So big shout out to Mr. Bitter. He is a really nice guy.
Yes, he definitely is a great guy. Somewhere along the just along the line there, you did end up joining Mouse, right? Mouse Sports.
Yep.
And one of the things I want to ask you is that trend of teams starting to pick up casters, I think, has started to pick up recently. And talk to me about that, because I think you already had the ESL job, right, before you joined Mouse. Is that correct?
I didn't. No.
Okay, it was the opposite. Okay.
I actually missed that out, actually, which is extremely rude of me. But no. There was a small difference. Segment between CSN and then transitioning onto ESL, where I became a member of Mouse, and I thought initially they approached me. Basically, they wanted a caster. They had a caster before me who didn't really kind of follow through with all the broadcasts, didn't really bring that much content, didn't really bring that much coverage. I'm not saying I brought a massive amount of coverage. I don't know. It depends. From my point of view, it's not easy to judge how much coverage I really brought, because obviously I was involved in it for the whole time. To me, I thought I brought loads of coverage. That was fantastic. But they approached me. They wanted me to be their official caster and stuff like that. And I thought it would be really cool, and it would give me some kind of I don't know, professionalism, like something to recognize along with, because Mouse Sports is a very well established brand in esports. So being able to say, yes, I am mouzKaelaris as opposed to just Kaelaris would give me some kind of credibility, which is pretty much the main reason I actually joined. But then I kind of grew to love Mouse Sports in general, and so that's about it, really.
I mean, do you do a lot for them right now? I mean, now that you're working at ESL, right? How much content do you do with Mouse these days?
I don't do anything for them for a while, unfortunately.
Okay.
It's really hard to be able to with the amount of stuff that ESL's giving me, like the EPS, WCS, IEM, and just all like the Go for Starcraft 2s and the RSL that we were casting previously. And I'm thinking we're trying to sort out a few other casts right now. So my week schedule is very busy. There's actually, coming back to the misconception thing, there's a misconception that casters, don't really put in that much effort or don't do a lot of work for the position they're in. Maybe that's an inside misconception. I don't know. But I don't think it's true. Like, you can, as a caster, if you're wanting to constantly improve yourself, and if you're constantly wanting to cast over and over and cast more and improve yourself in that regard, there's a lot you can be doing all the time. And being at ESL, I feel I owe it not only to my employers, but also to the community, to constantly further myself and constantly make myself better, and like constantly ladder, constantly practice my casting, both solo cast and dual cast, because sometimes there's not the opportunity to co-cast, since we don't have a co-caster at ESL at the moment. So it's really important to me for that regard.
Would you recommend like other casters, like kind of that same kind of progression, like joining a team as a caster and then looking to maybe join a bigger organization?
That's also really hard to say. I think, again, I really liked the credibility it gave me, and I think it did further my progress. Mouse Sports helped me a lot, not only with the contacts that they were able to provide, but also just, again, the name itself. I would say you need to find your own route. It's a good route to take, but if you can't, I don't know. It's hard. I'm sorry, I can't really figure out a conclusive answer to it.
Well, if it would have been exclusive, like if they would have said you can only cast for us, we don't want you casting for CSN or for other organizations, do you think that would have slowed that progress?
Oh, yeah. Like, exclusivity is really, really bad, especially for casters. I mean, there's technically some organizations now that have a problem, or voice an opinion of a problem that they don't want me casting for them because of the sponsors of Mouse. Even now, even though I'm not really doing too much with Mouse right now, so that can always be an issue as well. Sponsors have to be taken into consideration a lot in that regard. So, but no, exclusivity, you need to probably pretty much avoid that. And it's good that a lot of organizations like ESL and I think also NESL, because Mr. Bidder's going to be casting... Oh no, both of them are going to be casting MLG actually. Yep. So, but exclusivity just works against you anyway. That should never ever happen. Because obviously if you've got a caster, you want that person to be as big as possible so you get as much exposure as possible. Right. And how are they going to be as big as possible if you're not allowing them to venture out of the bubble of fans that you've already encompassed?
So does ESL say anything to you? Like, for instance, I think it was a few weeks back you did something for us in the afternoon, I believe, or we were going to have you do something. I can't remember how it went, but does ESL say anything like, we would rather you not cast for CSN because they're, a competitor or something like that?
No, not really. I think. Again, I have like 3 gigs that are coming up in the next few months that are not with ESL. They're potentially with competitors, but they are happy to allow you to, further yourself in this regard, and not just under the ESL banner. They understand completely how things work. And I also want to point out that working at ESL is the best thing ever.
Yeah, we're about to get to that for sure.
Oh, okay,
no, keep going.
Well, I don't know. Like, some people don't. I think this is gonna sound crappy.
Just say it.
Ben and Kevin voiced some opinions about working with ESL wasn't exactly the most easy of things, but I adore working with ESL. Nothing could ever throw me off like this kind of line I'm going on. Everyone's really nice, and yeah, sure, there's some technical problems sometimes, but there's technical problems in everything, in every single company that is currently working with eSports. And sorry for anybody who may take offense to that, but it happens, right? You just got to get over it and just keep going. So
I think it also depends on the engagement profile. I mean, if you're working for ESL and you're being compensated by ESL, then you're of course expected to represent ESL sponsors in that engagement. You're not, you might be mouzKaelaris, but they don't expect you to bring your, to be like bringing your Monster Energy drink can onto the desk at the ESL casting station. I think that's kind of the situation. I mean, where when people, like, if you cast for CSN, then I mean, of course it's CSN's gig. It's their platform, and I mean, there's no real conflict between CSN and Mouse per se, but I mean, there could be with somebody else. A prime example is Mr. Bidders working with the Razor Academy, but when he went to the Home Story Cup, he did the Rocket package bit. I mean, as a caster, you're there for the community. I think casters have to be kind of held outside of those standards to a certain degree.
Yeah.
I mean,
I fully agree.
Yeah.
I had, Axel Toss used to be with our team, and I had. He still really follows our players and stuff and loves what we're doing. And, I mean, he's a caster, right? And he's with Root right now. And, it's one of those things where, how much can one caster on one team promote, players on another team or whatnot. And it's always this, like, thing, I think that In Control is really good about this. He always tries to promote up-and-coming players. He always tries to kind of, reach out there and do things in the community. I think that's a really good example, so, to be set.
I think, I mean, just to echo the sentiments that you made there, it's for a caster being on a team. I think for mouse sports, I think they understand that there's gonna be potential conflict in the messages that I'm sending out for representing sponsors elsewhere in tournaments, and there's a slight. I mean, I was gonna mention this earlier when we were talking about Mouse, but there's an important distinction between player and caster in that regard in representing the sponsors. It's obviously a very hard thing to get over, because obviously Mouse doesn't want me say, like, because they're sponsored by Razer, they don't want me saying, yeah, SteelSeries is the best or whatever and things like that. But if I'm at a tournament that's sponsored by SteelSeries, then I
to make sure you thank the tournament sponsors, right? Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
And you need to, as a caster, you need to be that person that's relatively neutral but still representing the team that you adopt, in essence. So
I think if you take your team brand with you into a gig, a paid gig, I think that's completely acceptable. I think when you take sponsor brand with you into a gig, like, you know, personally, I think that, you know, bringing your Monster Energy can or whatever, I think it's like at least. I mean, of course, if you have the permission of the event, then I think that's fine, you know. But I mean, you know, clearly, I mean, we work with Red Bull a little bit, and we have, you know, some Red Bulls at events and stuff like that, and our players are used to drinking Red Bull a lot, you know. But when we were at an event and, you know, our player was caught on camera with a Red Bull, he got replaced with a, you know, other energy beverage, and then subsequently lost his next match when he was in 4th position. But you know, it
was the Red Bull. There's the reason why he lost.
Hey, Sam told me, he goes, you wouldn't change an MLB batter's bat before he goes up to bat.
Oh my gosh, man.
You know, I mean, there's certain chemicals inside of these drinks.
Oh my gosh.
So
Was it so he had to change
the marketing
his
is
drink
going
because
like
he was
beyond
on camera?
here.
Yeah. It was Sase at MLG, actually. He was drinking a Red Bull, and they said, well, it's fine, just make sure you keep it on the floor, and, you know, and he was taking a swig of it right when the camera was on him, and
he's
it was like,
he's got his beer helmet on.
He had to change out with a NOS, you know, basically.
Yeah.
And which he didn't really seem to mind, but I mean, you know, I think he was just really tired. But he did lose the next match, you know, so.
That's going a little too far.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
But, you know, I will say this too. MLG has come a long way. They really have. They're really trying to make sure that things are better for the teams. I think IPL has done the same thing. I think that everybody out there is really trying to provide that kind of representation and provide the teams and the players the ability to deliver their partner's message. At least, you know, I remember the days when MLG used to, like, make sure that the shoulder brand was out of the camera shot because of their exclusivity arrangement with Z.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Really?
Way. Yeah,
Well, actually, Mark, you'll probably remember this. Do you remember when there was the season, and this was actually when I was still an owner, when they sent out the shirt/uniform requirements that they were going to try to enforce on people for 2011?
It was like on your butt or something, and that was it, right?
Yeah, that didn't last long, did it?
No, I don't think that lasted more than like about a
I'm not
day.
even sure they did it, did they?
No, they didn't.
They
They
didn't.
hurt everyone, flipped their shit, and they was like, well, that wasn't a good idea. So like, I agree about casters. Really, they have to be independent. Casters have no loyalty as far as like which organization they want to cast for. They have to do whatever they can. There aren't enough gigs that, and it stifles your growth to stay with just one organization forever.
So Frank, I have a question about that, or actually to all of you. So when TSN helped at the Gigabyte Esports LAN, Azael, I think I'm saying his name right, from EG, was a caster, and everyone was told as casters that they needed to wear a suit because that was what the casting was going to be all about. And he was told that by EG that, nope, you have to wear your EG shirt. And if you notice, anyone that does any sort of casting for from EG is you know, always has to wear their EG T-shirt, always. And that's just getting a little bit old, I think. And it's not. See, I agree with you guys. I mean, I think if you're a caster and you go to an event, you're separate from, you know, what your other personal sponsors might be. You're doing something for this event to help this event grow, and I think it should be.
And you're being paid.
Yeah, and you're being paid.
And you're being paid for it. Yeah.
I mean, I think John. I think that the whole issue, like In Control at the Asus LAN with his like nice polo with the EG logo on it, I'm fine with that. Bring your team brand, no problem.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
Bring your
that's
team
fine.
brand, no problem. But if you have the full logoed out shirt, I can totally see where you're coming from, man.
Yeah, it's annoying.
I think they're doing themselves a disservice with that. Like, I could quite easily put on my mouse shirt for these casts or whatever, but I think that the image that I want to represent and the neutrality that I want to represent as being a caster, and that is very, very an important point in my opinion, is the, shirt, even a suit jacket if needs be. Like, for example, for Intel Extreme Masters tomorrow, I will be actually just wearing a t-shirt, which I'm not particularly pleased about, because I think I look like a douche in just a t-shirt. But, it's...
Do I have to bring that picture up again here?
No. That's,
I love Jorsar. Is it Jorsar?
Jurasar.
Jurasar. Man, he's like in his bedroom with his bed behind him, and he's got this suit on, man. I love that. It's so awesome. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, those things kind of sound, like we're talking about, like, casters being neutral, and they should, it really benefits them the most to be like that and not, be exclusive or have any of this kind of business. Then why not? Then why aren't you and other casters just team organization agnostic? Why not just if an organization wants to hire you, like a team wants to hire you just to do some content, or just say IEM wants to hire you just to do this week. Why don't they just pay you just for the event, and kind of take it like a la carte instead of signing you like onto these things.
Onto the team?
It's just the agency. It's just the agency concept. The concept is Azale wouldn't have got the gig at the whatever if it wasn't for EG's influence and stuff. I mean, and that is true. I mean, some teams, some brands are better at representing their people and promoting their people. The reason that casters join teams is because they want to increase their exposure and their notoriety and get more access to opportunities.
It's a lot of times it's a consistent amount of casting opportunities too. They know that that team is running some sort of event every week, so Caelaris is going to be that guy every week. And for CSN, that's one of the reasons why we did it. But what's odd is that every caster that worked for us or that has done something for us, one of the first questions they asked is, okay, so if I start doing stuff for CSN, am I okay to do something for someone else? Even Gwen, who has done a lot of casting for us, said, am I okay? I'm getting paid by Beyond Gaming to do some casting for them. Is that going to be okay? I mean, is CSN going to still let me do things? We're like, yeah, absolutely. Now, it's not always the case with other organizations. They certainly, will say, no, we'd rather you not. But I'll
tell you this much: if Gwen worked with Check 6 before, now he works with us. If we went to Gwen and said, hey, you can't do something, Gwen would be like, okay, guy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just not going to fly, dude. I mean, like, if people are getting paid to do things, then, you have to allow them to take advantage of those opportunities. Now, it's different if we were paying Gwen a salary, like I'm assuming EG's paying Azale a salary, then having the contracted rights to offer that person out makes sense, Because EG's bearing the risk of compensation, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's actually the case, but I'm just saying, like, like, that's the whole thing. Like, if we pay Naniwa, $2K a month or something, right? I mean, like, our expectation is when people want Naniwa, they're going to pay us, right? Not Naniwa. You see what I'm saying? Because we're absorbing the risk associated with compensating him, and that's kind of like the agency approach, I guess. That's why. And honestly, like, I think a lot of teams that are paying players that much are absorbing that risk and aren't necessarily even collecting on it. That's a real issue right now.
Yep.
I'm going to ask you the question that every viewer is probably asking them right now or wants to ask, but did you pay anyone that much? That's so cheeky.
Actually, it was more than that.
Okay.
I can tell you that much. I'm not going to tell you exactly how much, but it was more than that.
Of course.
That was just an example figure.
Sure.
All right, good stuff. James,
Sorry.
So James, you definitely mentioned a lot of the great things about working at ESL, but are there any cons for working at ESL?
Any cons?
Yeah.
If he can't give you any, I can.
Yeah.
John's always there for the negative, bro. That's awesome.
In the 3 months that I've been here, I literally can't think of any, but 3 months is a short period of time, so maybe there will arise one eventually.
You moved to NASL now? Is it like a year, basically? You stay at ESL and then you go to... Okay.
Pretty much, yeah. Like in a year's time, NASL will contact me, and then that's how it works.
That was a joke. That was a joke. It was a bad joke, but okay.
It works, man. It works.
I made an equally bad joke about Mana joining EG in a few months, so, you know.
Dude, get off Mana. No, no.
So, are you living in Germany? Is that?
Yeah.
How do you like that?
How do I like Germany?
Yeah.
Cologne's a really friendly city. Like, it's really, really nice. I don't know if that's because it's one of the gay capitals of Europe, but it's still a really nice city. I digress. So, I think that I lived in Finland before, so that was.
Finland's like one of those places you walk down the street and people like don't even look at you; they just keep walking. You know.
Very much. Finnish people are very, very private about themselves. Don't say anything or anything. But every time I like get on a tram here, people like start talking to me in German. I don't know. Maybe I have a friendly face or something. But I'm like, sorry, I don't know German yet. Oh, okay.
Jawohl, jawohl.
Exactly.
No, raus. That's about it. So.
Yeah, Germany's a great country. I mean, everybody I know that's lived in Germany or, you know, had some stints with their job in Germany for a couple of years just loves it there.
So James, are you at the studio? I mean, at the headquarters, the ESL offices, I guess?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I go in 5 days a week. Technically, this last weekend, the IEM effect hit, and I actually went in on Saturday assuming it was Friday, and then I turned up and realized no one was at the office, and I was like, I'm sure it was Friday, but apparently not. So apparently I'm going in 6 days a week. But no, it's really nice. And the studios are really, really fun to work in. It's a far cry away from working in your living room and just casting from there every day. And we're even getting extra studios built as we speak, so it's going to be a case of I'm going to be able to just stream every single night, as opposed to having conflicts with the League of Legends guys, Joe Miller and Jason Kaplan, so it's going to be good.
Who? What is that? Another game? I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're allowed to mention other games on this show.
Oh, I didn't realize that. So
I would hope that we do.
Oh well, we got some League of Legends guests lined up in the near future.
I know.
But yeah, well, you know, speaking of which, you know, James, like, do you have any plans to do cross games? I mean, is StarCraft 2 like going to be your main focus for a while, or do you have?
Yeah, man, I'm jumping to League of Legends instantly. You see those numbers, man? That's crazy.
Man.
No. I'm StarCraft through and through. I'll admit I enjoy playing League of Legends with my friends. It's pretty cool. But I'm not in the business of like switching from like pure RTS right now. Nah. I like when StarCraft ends up dying and there's another RTS that comes out, probably end up transitioning to that. But I really love the way in which casting is structured around the RTS genre. I think it works really well with my method of casting. So.
And how would you just since you're on the show as a guest, how would you describe your method of casting? I mean, if you had to stylistically try to describe it for those people here who haven't ever seen, you know, you cast specifically.
Yeah. Well, technically, because I solo casted a lot when I was in Finland, I would say that I adapt myself around my co-caster, be it analytical or play-by-play, depending on what they're doing, of course. But for the most part, I feel that RTS is constant talking. There's never really downtime. There's always something that you can be saying. There's always something that you can be like informing your audience about. And I think that there's very few genres that really kind of carry that along with them. Like, if you watch a Counter-Strike cast, for example, I have a very prolific friend in that, in the form of Red Eye, who is a fantastic caster. But the style in which you would cast a first-person shooter, like Counter-Strike, for example, is different. You're slowly building up the tension. You're slowly coming to the point where there is an engagement via the way in which you're speaking. And I don't think I could ever translate that as well as someone who, like Red Eye, has the skill set for. So I think my skill set is very, very, fundamentally adapted to RTS very well.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, definitely. He does a great job. I don't know I don't know, like where can they find you like regularly? Actually,
Myself?
for folks, yeah, for folks in NA. I mean, I'm sure all the EE folks like know where to find you, but
I'm on ESL.tv or twitch.com/ESLTV_SC2. I'm going to be casting the Intel Extreme Masters this whole week with Day 9 and Tastosis, which is going to be a true honor. I'm just, going to say it. It's going to be very, very cool. I've been spending the entire day with Sean today, and it's been pretty awesome. And other than that, well, I've been doing a lot of the World Championship Series stuff as well for Blizzard, which has been really cool as well. So you can check out the VODs of that probably on, again, twitch.tv/ESLTV_SC2.
Okay, great. Like, if you had one piece of advice, or maybe just like, if you were to pinpoint just one key moment in your career, what would you say to like an up and coming caster that's watching the show right now, that he wants to make it to, I guess, the point where you are?
Oh my God! So many bailings, annihilating everything. Just kidding,
Exactly that.
Got to master that phrase right there.
Yeah, shout. But no. Networking. Networking is the way to go. Like, if you could be the best caster in the world, but nobody is going to know, and nobody is going to give you the opportunity unless you go out and shake hands with people and email people and make yourself as known to people as possible. So networking is the big way to go, by far.
All right.
Yes,
cool.
It's a relationship business.
Yes, definitely.
Very much so as a relationship business, and even if you try to be ultra professional and everything like that, you got to put hand in hand. You got to shake hands and kiss babies and all that kind of stuff if you're going to be able to build the relationships that can go far. And I think a lot of that is, I think it's evolving. It's becoming more professional. I mean, I'll never forget, I met a sponsor one time, and he was like, you know why I sponsored this team? Because the first time I met them, I smoked pot with them. And I'm like, wow, okay, so does that mean I have to smoke pot with people in order to get sponsors?
You'd be surprised.
Smoke pots and various other things.
Yeah, but I mean, I think the point is that it is getting like more professional, and there is like a greater expectation of professionalism. But I still think that the personal relationships are really important, and I think that gamers in general are kind of a more casual crowd. So you've got to be able to adapt to the people that you're meeting. You have to be able to realize when you're dealing with somebody who's really professional versus somebody who's really laid back. Because if you deal with somebody who's really laid back and you come on a little strong, oftentimes they'll just go dark on you. They'll just like switch off. They're like, can't deal with this,
Yeah.
Especially if it's like a sponsor contact or something. So you have to be a little bit more careful with that.
Yeah, we're still in the buddy phase of business right now in esports, for casting, for teams, for a lot of things. It's going to be that way for a little bit. I'm thinking it will change eventually, though.
Yeah, but definitely go to
it'll
events.
take a while.
Yeah, it's going to be a while,
Sorry.
I think. But no, I was just going to say, like, I don't know how many stories I've heard, or casters telling me that, going to events is so important. You never know when you'll have that opportunity where you meet, I don't know, you're sitting next to Carmack, you're sitting next to, whoever it is, like David Ting or Sundance, and
yeah.
they have some technical issues, right? And the sound goes off, and then all of a sudden you have a chance to do your own casting for like an audition, like right then and there, and that that leads to a job like many times. I mean,
a fantastic example is Kevin Nokke. Do you know how he got his position at IPL? Well, I'm guessing you do, Frank, but
I actually don't know the whole story. I've heard bits and pieces of it.
Long story short is he was just like sat next to some guy who was IPL at an MLG, and he was like casting the game to him because he didn't understand what was going on, and that's how he basically got the job. Or at least that's from his words.
That sort of stuff happens more than you think. I mean, Andrew's shared a cab with people, and by the end of the cab ride, we've worked out some sort of deal where we're going to run some sort of tournament for them, or we're going to work with them in the future. All sorts of things like that. I tell all of my staff that, because esports people are, we're gamers, and for the most part, most gamers are pretty quiet people. They're not as outgoing as maybe they should be, if they're trying to create business. But, I tell all the guys that work with me, it's all about relationships. You have to reach out and talk to people. I mean, you might have the greatest ideas in the world, but if you're not going to actually approach somebody with them, it's never going to matter.
And sometimes it's just a lack of opportunity. You don't really know the opportunity to work with someone is there until you actually just run into them, start talking shop, and you're like, well, we should just do this. You know, you have the same idea, and you found someone who has it from the angle that you need, and you can just go for it. And it's not like you can just throw those ideas into an open forum and then hope someone takes them. It has to be a more personal relationship with that. And for that, you really have to go to the events, you really have to meet with people, and you really have to share the ideas, and in person, usually.
Or if you meet, you have to send David Ting a monthly email just with an update, like, hey, let's keep working together, kind of stuff.
Yeah, David Ting's like the kind of guy who, like, whenever I reach him and he's like, I'm in the car as a passenger with my wife, like, that's when I have like a 1-hour Skype chat with him to catch up on all sorts of stuff. But when he's at the office, he's so busy, it's just impossible. I mean, I completely get that. I mean, I had a meeting with MLG today, and it was supposed to be with Sundance. Sundance has been telling me, hey, I have a breakfast meeting, I'm going to get with you later today. Hey, I have a breakfast meeting. Hey, I have a lunch meeting, I can't get with you today. And I ended up just having the meeting with Lee Chen, you know, which was fine. But it's just, you know, it is so hard to get access to those people. And to a certain degree, I can understand that because I have a similar role in my organization, and it's difficult to find availability sometimes as well. And, you know, but I think that those people, those personalities, it's really important that they do make some time and make themselves available to all sorts of folks. I think that's real important. I think Sundance has done a really good job with that, especially when he talks to fans and stuff like that directly at the events, and when he makes himself available. If you want to talk to Sundance, go to one of his events. That's what he always says. Yeah,
for the most part, I mean, I feel like everybody's still very accessible at this point, and you know, everybody knows each other too. So like, if you just you know, if you just start getting to know like one person, then all of a sudden, you know, it's just like the typical networking scenario, right? I mean, they know like a ton of other people that they can introduce you to, and like you guys said, like once you get somebody on Skype and they respond to you, don't waste time. like use that. I mean, that moment is you know, could be your only moment to actually, you know, try to nail something down with this person. So it's really important for you to be accessible too. It's the beauty of being on Skype all day.
I think
seriously,
Skype is the currency of this industry. Like, if you've got to be building your. I mean, I swear I could sell my Skype account for the 600 contacts that I have.
Yeah, I think a gun run could make about $1 million if you Skype with someone.
Actually, I caught Gunrun today. Gunrun's here. Gunrun's in Cologne. I was like walking around with him. It was like we were looking at all the booths. Cool dude. I was so happy he was here. Wow. Sorry, slight tangent. My apologies for interrupting.
Gunrun's always got, what, John, like 200 conversations going at once?
Yeah, easily. Easily.
Yeah. That guy is amazing. But all right, guys, why don't we transition over a little bit to Frank here? Frank's got, I'm sure, a lot of stories here. You know, given your history with Team Rain and now with IPL. But yeah, why don't you walk us through that just really briefly? Kind of, just again, your kind of esports timeline.
All right, so I like starting at the beginning. 6th grade, started playing Starcraft.
Man, okay, cool.
Yeah, Starcraft was my first esport, even though I didn't really play it competitively. But my first introduction to competitive gaming was actually through Dota, way back in probably 2002, before Dota was even in Cal, and Cal was still around. And I played Dota for about 6 years. Most of it professionally when it was with Check 6, which now is dead, which is kind of funny.
News today, guys.
But
it's not funny.
Yeah, went to the first ever North America Dota LAN, which was a BYOC at CPL 2006 winter, and that was interesting. So then Dota, and then Guild Wars for a while, which honestly it had a really big competitive scene. It's a shame that streaming wasn't as big as it is now, because I think that game would have taken off a lot more. And then back to Dota, and that's when I started writing for MYM. Because at that time, I think this was 2008 or 2009, somewhere, maybe it was 2007, somewhere around there, when StarCraft 2 was finally announced, and everyone started playing Warcraft 3 again, including me. And I was like, well, if I'm going to I want to make a team in StarCraft 2, and if I'm going to do that, I actually have to know what I'm talking about. So I started writing for MYM for Warcraft 3 for a really long time. And then they made me head of their Warcraft 3 content after basically being a bi-weekly columnist for about a year. And I did that until the StarCraft 2 beta came out and MYM went bankrupt and sold their management and all that stuff. But I just basically started VT Gaming because I just really wanted I wanted to be competitive in a new game where basically it was like, all right, this is a level playing field. Even the Brood War Koreans, should they decide to play, haven't played this game before. So I was a player manager in that for about 6-7 months before it was basically time that I wanted to make a team that was even better than VT, and that's where I got the idea for Rain and emulating the Korean training house style. I'll just be honest and say that it failed miserably, and the reason it failed miserably, I'm just really not that good at being a team owner. I'm a lot better at being a team manager. That's what I've always excelled at, and I learned a lot from that, obviously. But Rain, from about June 2011 until February 2012, pretty high-quality players, and I really wish I could have had a little bit more time because we had, at the end, it was going to be Inori, Artist, Axlav, and I don't know if you knew about this, Mark, because I was before you had him, but Illusion wanted to move into the house right before we were disbanding, and he had asked me about it 2 weeks before I knew the team was about to end, and I was like, I don't think I really want to join this team. But I would have really liked to see what we could have done with that roster if I had a little bit more time. So that is my history to present.
Frank, can you touch on that a little bit, because it's interesting, and people may, there's a lot of teams out there that the owner is also the manager and vice versa, What is the biggest difference between being the owner and being the manager?
All right, so being the manager, you are player-centric, as in you take your players' interests above the interests of your team's revenue, above the interests of your team's social promotion, above the interests of your team's sponsorship and partnership acquisition. And as an owner, that's dangerous. I actually have this mantra now, and I've said it to so many managers from so many teams: players are the enemy. And that sounds really rude and really awful, but as an owner, that ends up being true 90% of the time. I've worked with some really great players that do everything that they're supposed to, but in my experience, most players do not care about your interests as an owner. And it's not that they fight against you, it's just that they're not interested in helping that, become a goal. So when you are taking on both roles as an owner, when you have your interests for your organization and a manager simultaneously, where the interests are your players, it really is a conflicting position, and it's hard to focus on both at once and do them well. And I just do not do biz dev as well as I do player management.
Well, biz dev in esports is a real bitch. I mean, let's just be honest here. I mean, but yeah, I think it's the separation of concerns is really important, and you have to be at a certain critical mass before you can do that. I mean, we actually have an esports director who's our player manager, and we also have a sales and marketing director, and they're both full-time employees. And then my job is really just the growth of the business. I work on the business, not in the business, and I try to build relationships with people. But a lot of times, my marketing director can get stuff done that I can't. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And because those two divisions are working together, but they have conflicting interests. Like the sales and marketing director, he's always worried about what the sponsors need. And the player manager, he's always worried about what the players need. And he's doing like logistics and travel, and he's building budgets for events, and he's saying, hey, I need this funding. And of course, then the sales and marketing director is going to sponsors, and he's trying to, raise those funds or whatnot. And sometimes, there's a concern or a conflict, and sometimes one side wins, and sometimes the other side wins, of course. And I try to stay out of it as much as I can, but of course, if I need to get involved, I do. But I guess the point that I'm trying to make is that for a smaller team, it's really tough. And I know that because we were there for a long time, and you can go crazy. I mean, I got into this esports thing, and I saw like some people get really emotional about stuff, and I was like, oh, never. That's not me. I come from professional business. Dude, a year and a half, 2 years later, like this business, emotionally and psychologically, it will make you do, say, think, feel things you never thought possible.
Yeah, it took me on such a roller coaster where it just wasn't fun anymore. And to be honest, I was actually glad when the team disbanded, because the stress of all the conflicts in the situation, it just got way out of proportion for what I expected it to be, for what it started as. It starts as a passion project, it's fun, everyone likes each other, but the business and running a team where you have to fly players, let's say 100 different flights a year, 100 different hotel rooms, you have to have financing for that. It's not free, and it can't all be about fun anymore. And that realization and the wear and tear of trying to do that for almost a year, that really wore on me after a while.
Frank, do you think the expectations of players have changed a little bit? It used to be, and you've been in esports for a while, and for me, I've been in esports for a long while, and because there was no money involved, I mean there was, but is to a very small extent.
Yeah.
When you were together as a team, it was really about your friends getting together and making a team, and maybe you weren't all at the highest levels, but you had a solid team, and then you'd win some things, and people would look at you like, that's a pretty good team. But the team dynamic was really more about just a bunch of guys getting together and enjoying the game that they like. It seems nowadays that the teams, the players are much more, they're a lot more difficult to deal with because there is a lot of money in things, for them at least. Money has gotten in the way of the root gaming type model, which I think is a little bit more about just getting guys together that are friends.
Yeah, I 100% agree, and I have a few answers to that. So I played professional Dota, and I put professional in quotes because I probably made less than $2,000 in all the times I played HON or Dota, and all the tournament wins and all the money I made. And now, it's completely changed. And you're right, VT gaming was a completely different mindset than Rain, where it was just like, let's just go to tournaments, let's have fun, let's see what we can do. Like, I remember, like, one of the best tournaments we had as VT, Poke Money was playing against Phoenix, not Korean Phoenix, Peruvian Phoenix, and I think the 4th round of an MLG. And that was probably the biggest match of his life to that point. And we spent probably half an hour and an hour searching Phoenix's match history on the weaknesses of his lineup. And like, this is everyone on the team, all 6 or 7 of us are there, all like, how can we exploit this? How can we do this? And then he 2-0'd Phoenix in about 25 minutes, and it was like the best thing ever. It was the best feeling because it was truly a win as a team. Like, we truly felt that. And then like later in the tournament, the same thing. Gix 2-0's Axlab in about 15 minutes, and it was like everyone felt good about stuff like that. It was, but now players have more their own interest than their team interests, and that whole like fraternity or brotherhood feeling that a lot of teams have or used to have aren't really there anymore. And it's not that it's the opposite spectrum where everyone is just a mercenary or anything like that. I don't want it to come off like that. But the teams are based around the business more than they're based around the team chemistry and how much everyone's friends. Most of the time. Not all of the time. But most
it has to be that way.
Yeah, it has to be that way, yeah.
The interesting part that you're making, and I said this a few days ago, I was talking with Kurt for Project 6, and I wanted to get your opinion on that too, but I mean, basically, you look at the big teams, like Quantic and EG and Dignitas and Complexity, they're a lot more than just a team. They're effectively a full-fledged marketing business. They do delivery, they do engagements, they work with customers and clients, they build campaigns, and they execute that through their players and through their media properties. That's a real legitimate business, and if you want to get into the scene, you want to be able to become a big team, you have to basically not just fund and develop your brand and your esports side, you have to fund and develop your marketing delivery side and all of those agency aspects and all that stuff as well. So the only difference between a regular marketing agency and like an Evil Geniuses is that instead of taking all the profit, Evil Geniuses is pouring it into esports.
Yeah,
and that's the truth. You see what I'm saying? Like, that's the truth for all these big teams. Like, we just... Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about EG a little bit. Like, I really like Scott, and he might listen to this. This is not a shot, but EG is not... I mean, it is, but it's not a professional gaming team. It is a marketing agency, and that is how they're making whatever X amount of profit that they are, is because of the way that they approach that, and they're doing it 100% right in that regard. And that's different than this is a clan that we formed in Battle.net and Warcraft 3, and we just want to see what we can do in the professional scene. And it's two completely different things.
Well, I mean, I think it's possible in professional gaming to have that kind of camaraderie you're talking about, Frank, right? I mean, even in a professional environment, right? I mean, just look at other sports, right? All those guys are paid, individually, have individual contracts, but when it comes to, but the sport is kind of designed so that there's like a central goal that all of them have to, reach together. And it's kind of like what I think some of these leagues are trying to accomplish with team leagues, right? I don't think they've quite accomplished it. You know, they haven't been like super successful with it. I mean, I think this weekend was
because their format is all about one player.
yeah, exactly.
That's my
that's
problem.
John.
It's
That's
not about the team.
No, that's a good point. And
Yeah.
you know, like this weekend, I mean, we saw a little bit of that, right, Frank, at y'all's event. I mean, you know, Team Liquid's a good example of like kind of this, you know, this clan or this kind of close-knit team feeling that's kind of scaled up. And even the IM team, right? You kind of saw that. You know, you definitely see that camaraderie in this scenario. I mean, I think there needs to be, you know, events that are designed better. You know, maybe team events that are designed better to like, you know, emulate that type of feel to it. And then I think you might get more of that. And another thing you could do is kind of like what the Korean teams do, which is like, you know, whenever somebody like Marine King wins a tournament or something, he hands the check to the team manager, right? And the team, it's distributed amongst all the team members. Therefore, you have this forced type of teamwork where A and B team, you know, they're okay with being on the B team because they know they'll get something in the end if the A teamers do well, right? So I mean, those things can be done even in this professional environment.
Yeah, I have two answers to that. And Hotbid posted a little bit about this on Reddit. The whole Tasia carrying Liquid thing has been blown way out of proportion because Liquid won plenty of matches in TAC3 without using Tasia. And I know people are saying that Tasia carried Team Liquid. Tasia would have carried whatever team he was on in the whole tournament. It wouldn't have mattered. Zenio all killed. I can't remember what team it was. I think Dignitas. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm wrong on that. But Zenio all killed a team. Sheth all killed EG last season in TAC.
Sase all killed TL in the first season.
Yeah, but what you guys are saying is exactly the problem. It's about one player. The format is so flawed with this King of Hill stuff that it's not about a team.
Well, no.
So it's easy for people to say that.
It is and it isn't. Like, you can say, yes, one player can win the format for the team. And while, you know, that is less fair to teams that are have deep rosters where all the players perform, I find, and many people find, I just don't like watching the other format anymore. And I used to. When it was WC3L and Warcraft 3, I thought that was the most exciting team league I've ever seen.
Yeah.
But in Starcraft 2, I just don't find it exciting anymore. And, you know, you guys did see the event. Like, every single time Tasia won a big game, he ran over to the bench and he high-fived all his teammates because he knew it was their win just as much as it was his win.
That's the story, man. We need that story being told, right?
No, but I mean, you're absolutely right. And I mean, Tasia could do that after winning one match. I don't know. I just feel like you're right, Frank. That I feel like the way it's been done recently, that it just hasn't felt as exciting or as good. But I think it's possible. I think it's possible to lay out teams and just like seed them, like, you know, put your best guy against their best guy and just line them up, and then.
Well, you could do a tennis style like that. I love EG, but I hate the EG Masters Cup format. I hate it so much. I don't watch it. It's atrocious.
You're right, though. It's not as exciting to watch at all as you know, IPL TAC or GSTL at all. Like, GSTL and IPL TAC are two of the tournaments that I really look forward to watching purely based on the format. Just that.
But I think that the point here is that the storyline is always going to shift from one player to the other, and sometimes it can be controlled, but largely the most coherent storylines are actually drafted and executed campaign style by the community itself. And I think that it's important that we follow the community and which players they are interested in. We can really take their cues in this in a lot of directions, you know, but I think that, to John's point, having the largest foreign StarCraft 2 roster in the world, I can say this safely, even though there's one player up there on the stage, there's a whole team and a whole support organization and a whole logistics management and everything that's behind that player to be able to generate that success. And I don't ever want to take the success away from the player, because obviously without their hard work and dedication it would never have happened. But when your players come down off that stage and they go to their team and they say, "I'm sorry, I lost," like, your heart just breaks, you know, because they all work together to be able to sharpen each other's blade.
Yeah, I mean, you saw Hero, if you could watch it, you saw Hero, he was crying, his head was in his hands, because he felt like he let down his team, and everyone felt so bad for him. like the rest of the day. Like it was hug hero day, because he put so much into that, and he knew his team was counting on him, and he felt like he let them all down.
Yeah, the result of that, weekend, or just some of even the great GSTLs is, we get to see most of the players. You know what I mean?
We got robbed. Sorry.
Like, I mean, imagine if Tasia just all killed twice there. Then, like, from a Liquid, I mean, sure, all the Liquid players. I mean, nothing against Liquid players. I love the Liquid players, right? So, like, I mean, anybody can speak. Like, anybody knows I do. So, but for me, it doesn't feel like a team. Like, at least, it's a team win, of course. But it's like when one player just all kills a team twice, and all you saw was Tasia, like the entire. Let's just say all you saw was Tasia the entire weekend. Then that's not the same. I mean, that's not. You know what I mean? Even the players themselves, they can feel really great about the team, but I mean, it's just more. It's like those guys that sit on the bench versus actually starting in the game, right? It's like, it's more meaningful when you've actually been there and not only just like emotionally contributed, you actually did contribute to the win, like whether it's score or not, playing, just actually playing there. So I don't know. For me, at least for a spectator, I'd at least like to see it done well and then compare. You know what I mean? And
and maybe there is a balance.
Wouldn't it be great though if everybody could just cheer for everybody? Like at the player level, at the fundamental sport level. You know, I mean, like if it's EG versus Liquid kind of thing, in the final, right? I mean, just pick a team and go for it, man. I mean, like, why does it have to be, well, that's not our players, so we can't say anything nice about them? I think that's kind of dumb.
I think people do vote. I mean, I think people were rooting for, the Liquid players, over here. And then I'm sure in Korea they were rooting for the IM players. I think there was kind of a...
I was rooting for the IM players, but then again, I have history there, so...
Well, that's different. Yeah. That's different with you. But,
a little bit of history. Not so much.
I personally I wanted to see Liquid win the first match, and then I just wanted to see a close match in the second set. And that happened, so I was pretty happy.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think the end result was I think it would have been nice if it was, one more game? Was it one more?
Yeah.
Yeah, one more game. It would have been nice to see, like...
Hero versus ST for...
Yeah, that would have been
end of a Team League final would have been amazing, so...
Yeah, and it's that whole, John, it's that whole story building. I've always said it, right? It's like tournaments should create a story, and, should try to create a story. And I think All Kill is one story that we've seen a lot of times, but if we could just create a story where it's like, the 7th ranked player, had an impact on the result. That would be kind of cool too. And
you got through 6 matches and the score was tied 3-3 in your 7th match. I mean, and I understand the tennis model, but I prefer there to be some strategy in it too, where it's one team gets to pick the player, and then the other team gets to pick who plays against that, and so on. Yeah. You some sort of format that incorporates strategy and who you're going to play and stuff. And I think you do all of those things, and you can incorporate a lot more of a storyline to the actual match itself, as well as to the league.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's worth mentioning too that Korean fans, and I don't want to say this and offend anybody, but I mean just in general from what I understand of it, the Korean fans really do enjoy a dynasty. They enjoy that, that Nestea or that MVP winning, multiple GSL titles and stuff like that. Whereas I think the American fan base is definitely hooked on the Cinderella story. I think that's just a very, fundamental thing about our country. Yeah. And I think the foreign scene in general, and people love a Stefano coming out of nowhere. People love it, and just doing a whole bunch of great stuff. And of course, now Stefano's kind of become a dynasty, to a certain degree. But people love that unknown soldier that just rises up and takes it.
Mark, man, don't fool yourself. The Americans would love a dominant American, believe me.
That's true.
I mean,
they would love
American. Only an
But what I'm saying is, do you remember when Jakchi won the GSL?
Yeah.
That was awesome.
That was like a bigger deal for the foreign fans than it was for the Korean fans, I think.
Yeah,
well,
I think it was.
That's true. There was definitely big hype around that, where he just came out of nowhere. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. No, we need an American hope, and I know who I have my bets on, but.
Yep.
I wanna quickly go back to the EG Masters Cup format though of the Team League stuff. There was a lot of times during, because whenever Mouse play their particular team leagues and stuff like that, I'm always in the same chat with them on IRC. Yes. And there was points where you draw the players before you actually play the games, and then you get drawn up against the other players that are just going. And because of that, there's not really, as John was saying, the strategy involved in just like King of the Hill. There's not really the strategy there at all. We lost games that technically I don't think Mouse should have lost, basically because people just got bad matchups. And that was it. You can't do anything about it. You're stuck with those matchups, and that's what you've got to play out.
And that's why I hate the format so much.
Yeah,
it's like you are out metagaming each other. Well, they're going to start this person on this map, so they'll think that we start this person on this map. Well, they're going to know that, so they're going to, and it's just, you want to just go back and forth, get your players the best matchups possible, and go back and forth, and they can do the same to you. I think that's that's a better
And that's
way
an art in and of itself, by the way. I should add that. That's an art. I'll never forget, we had Ben, our Starcraft manager, Ben Shaver, on the phone with the IM coach, arguing with them back and forth about who do we need to send in, or what do we need to do. And it's not easy. It really isn't an easy choice sometimes.
Imagine listening in to a team that's deciding that. It's like a huddle. I mean, imagine getting in and listening to it, decide, okay, how are we going to strategize this match? And so, I mean, it's just me being a tournament director and having these ideas for years and going through it. It's just, these are things that I look at like, man, to me that would be more, one, it would be more sports-like, and two, it would be more exciting.
No, I mean, I totally get that you have like one of your players end up playing their worst matchup, but you know what? This is the dynamic of a team competition. You know what I mean? It's not supposed to be the same as like an the individual tournaments where you're hoping that they get a lot of their good matchups and they make a deep run. I mean, this is it's all about the coach plays a huge role in this. Where I'm not sure the coaches play as big a role right now. Like it's it's not that hard to start Tasia and just have him, hey, just go win as many as you can. Then okay, next up we'll put Gonzi and then. Or well, not Gonzi. We'll put like Zenio and then Rhett and then end with Hero. It's not. I mean, there's not that much strategy to it. I mean.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a huge amount of strategy to, like for instance with Quake. I mean, you put 4 players into a CTF match. The match itself, the game itself has a huge amount of strategy, so listening to those players talk and stuff. But there was even roster strategies. For instance, a certain map might require a different player to be subbed in. Those things are more, one, they're more sports-like, and two, they just add more dynamic to the match. And I think that's needed a lot more in StarCraft 2, so that teams, like what Frank put together, they really feel more like teams, as opposed to 5 or 6 or 7 individuals under an umbrella of a name where they're all about trying to get what's best for them. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Can I do a little self-plug here?
Yeah,
sure.
I actually decided to restart VT as like a multi-gaming clan simply only for that camaraderie feeling. And I just, like, after I was thinking about it for like 2 weeks now, and after the Team League final, I was like, you know what? I really think that people need that. And, like, I don't care what people's team are, but if they want to have that camaraderie feeling and they feel like they're missing it, then they should have it, because I've talked to all of my old players, and they all miss VT. Like, they all miss that feeling that they feel like they haven't gotten anywhere else. So I'm like, you know what? For the longest time, I was like, it's dumb.
VT feeling.
Yeah, I was like, for a while, I was like, this is dumb. This team, for one, no one ever won anything. And I was say that.
That statement itself was like.
That was the point.
Getting on Ventrilo together. Going into a match and just being like, this is a blast. I ran a clan 10 years ago that started, or actually it's 2000, so 12 years ago. And I still get messages on Facebook from some of these guys who now, of course, have families and kids and everything, and they're like, dude, I just want to, a night where I can be away from my wife and kids, and let's get the old clan back together, because they called them clans back then. Now they call them teams. And it was awesome. It was great. That was a great feeling, just to go into a match and it be all about the team. And then when you were done and you won, it was the greatest feeling. Like, man, we just kicked ass instead of one player who just did everything.
Yeah, I mean, you want to hear a funny, trivial tidbit?
All right.
How Quantic started?
All right.
Quantic started as a Game Battles Battlefield Bad Company 2 team on PlayStation 3.
Nice.
Wow.
Cool.
So I mean, and it truly was just a bunch of friends, playing, and some of them people had good skills in organizational stuff and got started on that, and just grew. We won Dallas, and I was like, I guess we better do something with this.
Yeah.
But I mean, Frank, I want to know your opinion since you're Mr. Guest highlight here. What do you think? I mean, have you read the article about the Czech 6 departure on ESFI yet?
I actually have not. So,
what do you think about?
Go ahead.
I mean, I think that Kurt really summarized, how difficult it is for teams in the middle to kind of grow, and I just wanted to know from your experience with Rain, how do you view the departure of these teams? I feel like we're in this great consolidation. I've said this before. Vile, Czech 6, Rain. What do you say to that? What do you think? Is there a common thread? Is there a common problem here?
The common problem is that the first thing, these teams, I mean, Czech 6 is kind of an exception to this rule, but almost unanimously, they're new teams created in the last, and this is going to sound dumb, but created in the last 5 years in general. Whereas Mouse, Complexity, EG, they've been around for what seems like forever at this point. Like, before I was in the industry, certainly, and, before a lot of people have been in the industry. Their brands and their names are already established, and sponsors, even the ones that don't currently have partnerships with them, know who they are and respect those brands, respect the management, respect their ability to grow those brands. For new teams, all you have is your metrics and a promise that you're going to grow, and that's not really enough for a lot of sponsors to take a chance. Like, IGN took a chance, and Razer, not the biggest commitment in the world, but took a chance on our team that we were going to grow. And while we did grow, we didn't grow fast enough for our liking, for their liking, for anyone's liking. And with the super teams that exist right now, that is almost impossible. Now, I like almost all players on Light right now. I don't think that team's going to last. I'm very surprised, and I'm glad that it's Ghost who has managed to get off the ground, and I hope that they stay around, but I don't know if they're going to. Infinity 7, I really hope that they last too, but I don't know about them either. It's really hard.
It is, Frank. I think this goes back to the fact that everyone's trying to take from the same pool.
Yes.
Instead of working together to try to expand that pie so it's a lot bigger, and then we can all take pieces from it, and then maybe Czech 6 can get, maybe it's not one of the bigger pieces, but they get a little piece that's something new, that's just something for them, and it helps them survive. But and I'm not naming names or anything. I think people can figure it out. But there's just a few. There's certain people in esports that are all about getting everything they can, the entire piece, the entire pie, as much of it to their side, and that's great. I understand business. I understand that the strong will survive and the weak will fall away, but in this case, in esports, because it's still growing and we have a ways to go, it's better to grow, and Mark said this earlier too, I think it's better to grow it all together so it gets big, and then we can all take pieces of the pie and survive from that. And then at that point, the strong will survive and the weak will fall off, because the weak will fall off not because they weren't doing things right, not because they couldn't get sponsors, but because they weren't doing things right. They just were not a good team. It should be about, Czech 6 was a good team. They had
they were for a long time.
They had a good model. They have good players. They've been around a long time. They had good management. Sure, they made mistakes like everyone else did, but it shouldn't be about.
There is no business manual for this business, by the way.
Yeah, there isn't. Everyone can do it slightly different.
We've made our share of fair mistakes too, and I think one of the points that I was talking with Keehan the other day on the phone was, when he was telling me about what was going on with Czech 6, and I was like, and this was one of my assumptions, or what do you call it, when we first start the show, Chris? What do we do?
Misconceptions.
Misconceptions. Last week, my misconception was that there is no barrier to entry to owning a team in esports, and that is clearly false. And at the same time,
false.
The people who have owned a team for 10 years and had the luck and the fortune to be able to grow that up slowly, I think some of them don't think that Quantic should be here in the first place, or they'd like to see it go away.
Yeah.
But they think, oh, well, these guys are paying their way in, they're buying their way in. No, it actually costs a lot of money to do this if you want to do it right now. You want to grow a big team like Quantic out of nowhere in 2 years? It's going to drink cash. If you don't have it, you can't play. That's how it is.
I actually had this exact conversation with Scoots the week after Rain disbanded, and the first thing he said to me was, "Wow, a team I actually like disbanding." And he was kind of like, the message I took away from our conversation was, all these old teams, they grew over time, years
Yes.
and years and years. And my team, any team that starts, you've got maybe a year. And
Yep.
if your players haven't top three'd a major event at least once, if not multiple times, your team is going to be done.
Well, then
you're
you
not
have to
gonna
hope you keep that player.
Yeah,
Then you have to
like,
hope you keep that player. That's the biggest
Huck,
problem.
BT Huck for the beta, and then Millennium Huck, Liquid Huck, and EG Huck. You can't keep that player without the money, and I was a college student with no job when he's on my team. Not going to keep him. Not going to happen. So you've got maybe a year, and you have to have the money in order to keep the talent that you bring up. And if you don't, your team is going to be gone.
And you have to
there is
build
a
that
huge
entire
barrier.
business infrastructure in the back end at the same time, right? Marketing,
Yep.
delivery, campaign management, all this stuff. If you do a house, that's even more money. I mean, there's a lot of people who are behind the private equity funding that stabilizes the operations of our team and our organization overall. And they're in it for the long-term play, right? And our revenue is growing, but we keep investing further as well. But the point of the matter is that, is there any one specific point of success that really helped us get there? I mean, we won 4 MLGs last year, but I mean, I don't think that really mattered. I think it's more of a desire. It's more of like a, unwavering belief that something should exist. But I mean, there's a whole bunch of people out there that don't believe we should exist either. And I think it's kind of funny because Jason Lake also came into esports and spent a lot of money on complexity when he first came in.
He was a lawyer.
People don't criticize him.
He had all the money in the world to bankroll his team. And I remember there was a quote in a Gottfrag article that Jason Lake made, and I think it was, "If I was as good an owner as my players were as good a player, we would be a much better organization." Like, he realized his own shortcomings as a manager back then, and his team grew slowly, but they're still here. So he was doing a lot right, but it does take a lot of money to grow something like that.
Yeah, and I think when it's like, hey, you're spending your kid's college education money or something like that. That's kind of like, I mean, you should be able to spend what you need to spend in order to do this if you really want to do it.
So
Well, if your model is to make money, and you spend your kid's college fund on it to make more money, I don't see the problem there.
Well, I think that's the question. Like, I haven't got a nickel out of this yet, so I don't plan on doing so for a while either. But the point that I'm making here is that if you want to make this play, it is a big play. Like, it is a very big play.
Yeah. There's no half measures in this industry.
You want to start a Quantic in 2 years and have it where it is right now, it's a $250,000 play at least. And that's if you know people and they like you.
Yeah. Our budget was about $90,000, and considering like a year, I think I did about as good as I could with that much money. I'll toot my own horn a little bit there. I don't really think you can do much better with a really small budget.
Check 6 was amazing at that, actually. They were so good at that.
Really, really good at that.
Oh,
and I was a part of that organization for almost 3 years. Really good groups of guys, and I'm really sad that organization's not here anymore.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I have a similar question to what Chris asked before when we were talking, like, what would be the specific advice that you would give to someone who wanted to get more involved in like teams and stuff like that? Because actually, coincidentally, eventually when I want to transition out of casting, I want to get more involved in teams. So what would it be? What one piece of advice could you give to someone that wants to get more involved in teams in terms of like the management behind it and stuff like that?
All right, so you've heard like the 2 models of the 2 teams that I started in Starcraft 2. You have the VT model and you have the Rain model. If you already do not have a very high-paying job in the real world, don't try the Rain model, because you'll end up like me, 10 grand in debt at 26, and have to pay that off. Now, thank God, I've actually managed to pay off all the Rain debt. Like, hey, happy days. Do the VT model. And if you get somewhere and you guys start to win and there is something there, think about moving up to the rain model. Think about injecting cash and seeing if you can join the big boys. But you really want to grassroots it, I would say.
I agree.
There's a few teams, and I'm blanking on some of the names, but there's a few teams coming up that I think maybe someday, like Clash. I really like the Clash team. I don't know what their model is. Clash Mook, I remember, I can't remember, some EG player said he had no chance of beating the Muslim, and then he 2-0'd the Muslim in the first round of IPL 4, and it was hilarious. But like, that team is one of the teams where I'm like, I would really want to see what that team could do with money. There's a lot of teams like that, but you have to start with a no-budget model. Just try your best at your one game, because it's usually one game, and see what you can do. And if you can get close, then think about putting money in and seeing, you know, can I go from a middle-tier team with potential to a top-tier team that's actually growing into a stable business. But I would say for most people, don't just try to start a business right away, because you don't have enough time to grow it. No one will give you the time to do it, and you're going to hate yourself for doing it if you fail afterwards. So have fun with it, and start small and see what you can do from there. That would be my advice.
You know, just one quick note from me, I guess, before we kind of move on. But I mean, taking a step back and really just kind of, you know, looking at, you know, industry and just what we're talking about with teams just, you know, falling out and how hard it is to become a, you know, really a top-tier team, I guess. You know what that means? You know, if these mid-tier teams can't survive, or there's no middle ground between just like, you know, a recreational team versus like a full-out professional team, you know, like a EG or Quantic or, you know, Liquid or Complexity, then I mean, what that means is that there's just going to be less players supported in this industry, right? I mean, you're not
unless you have 25-man Starcraft 2 rosters, but yeah.
I mean, even
yeah, I mean,
so
it's,
what?
it's
Even
hard.
25 men. I mean, it's still like, I mean, we have
check
hundreds
sixes
of players.
Yeah.
Exactly. There's check sixes players. They're gonna. What are they gonna end up doing? They're gonna go back to school.
Yeah, well, think about
not
how
play
few good NA players there are now. Like,
That's
really,
the
think about
reason.
the number of North American players that have a chance to get, I mean, it's hard to say a specific point, but halfway through a tournament field. If you take and put them in a tournament field of international and Korean players, it's maybe 10. Maybe.
And they're already on big teams.
Yeah,
And
like
they're all on big teams.
Major, Illusion, Chefs.
Scarlet.
Scarlet.
If you want to go to Canada, like, it's very small. Very, very small.
Yeah, but that's because, you know, these people have had, I mean, not all of them, don't get me wrong. Like, Scarlet obviously came out of nowhere, but
Scarlet's the outlier.
yeah, she's
I mean,
definitely
that
the
almost
outlier.
never happens.
But, you know, these other folks, they've been enabled, you know, to basically do this for a living. And, you know, like the teams like Infinity 7, Check 6, you know, formerly Check 6, and you know, some of the others that you named, you know, Light and Root. I mean, we need a place where there's, you know, I don't even want it to call it a training grounds, because I mean, the last thing I want is like for to encourage, like, I guess, cherry picking, but we need a place like that. We need a middle ground for folks, because
That's basically what people ask us all the time. Do you guys have an academy? Do you guys? I'm like, no, our StarCraft roster is our academy.
yeah, and that's the problem. I mean,
We only pick up players that we feel have potential to improve from both a skill and brand perspective, and our focus is on helping them reach that potential. And that's what we're about. That's our core mission. And I feel like, you know, I mean, if a player is just going to stay where they are, then there's lots of places for them. But if they really want to do the hard work,
I mean, see, that's the reason why I really, really like what Duran's doing. You know, Xeris is doing with the college, you know, with the college StarCraft League. That is a medium that you know, that folks can actually develop their skill. You know, they have that, even that camaraderie within the school, right? And they can kind of facilitate that training, you know, without having to be in this kind of, you know, semi-professional, crazy kind of environment that we're talking about right now, right? So yeah, hopefully that will take off to the next level and be that kind of middle ground that we're that I'm talking about, basically.
Yeah.
But all right, Frank, you've avoided the IPL questions, so I mean, we don't actually have that much time.
You know, I don't want to dodge it. If you want to ask away. I will answer everything that I can answer. I can't answer everything. A lot of it's just because I don't know everything. But if
I have a quick question. I have a quick question, and this is not, I mean, okay, some of it's my personal opinion, but This came up a lot over the event that just happened, and to be honest with you, I can't remember the name of it, but the one in San Francisco. But people were wondering, where did the production value go?
Right off the bat.
No, I'm being serious. I mean,
Yeah.
so I thought maybe you could answer that. It just appeared that what used to be kind of standard for IPL, which was this excellent production value, you tuned in and you saw, people sitting in an empty room with casters at a table, and it just didn't feel the same anymore, like IPL. I don't know if that was just this event was just different, or I guess I'm just asking because there's a lot of people that are asking. There's why not just ask you while you're sitting right here?
All right, so I'll give you both the short answer and the long answer, and kids, close your ears. We fucked up.
I like that answer. I do.
Fucked up.
All right.
And there's plenty of details that I'm sure people who know more about production and work in our production staff could answer, but we fucked up. I'm sure there's going to be people that are in bigger, Josh is typing in chat now. There's going to be statements about how we fucked up, but we fucked up is the short and the long answer. It's really that simple.
I like that answer a lot. That's excellent, and we need more of that.
But I don't think that you can't do this. You can't do it without fucking up, right? I mean, there's no business manual here. You have to make mistakes and learn from them. And in the true measure of any organization or league or anything in this business is if you can learn from your mistakes and continue in a way that allows you to not repeat them.
But for them, for IPL to come out and say, you know what, this was not the production value that you should look to IPL for. This is not something that we normally do. We didn't put enough effort in, or just something happened, or it just didn't turn out the way we wanted it to, and we are saying right now that is not what IPL stands for.
Yeah,
and that is excellent.
In 15 minutes, I'm about to go into a meeting to discuss the, monumental ways in which we messed up.
Postmortem. Yeah.
Yeah. So I will obviously know more then, because I only know, what I firsthand experienced, and but I would expect much better at live events to come. None of us were happy with it. Everyone was disappointed. We all knew while it was going on that it was a shit show, and we know we need to do better. We know that it wasn't acceptable.
I think that's understandable, because when I watch IPL from a purely spectator point of view, I expect more than that, because you already set your standard with IPL 3 and stuff, and so I was, I guess, severely disappointed, and I'm sure you guys know about that from so yeah.
But I think people were more disappointed because that's not what they expected from IPL. And I think it's excellent to say, for an organization to say, you know what, you're right, we didn't give you what you either paid for or what you expected from IPL.
And both. We've been giving refunds for the stream, people who, for the whole month of August, because of it. We have set a much higher standard. IPL 3 and IPL 4 were, and I'm biased, but I think some of the best tournaments I've ever been to, in general. So we need to do better, and we will.
Well, I think that's an excellent answer.
Yeah, definitely.
I wish we'd hear more of that, to be honest with you.
All right, guys, why don't we do some Q&A here with some of the viewers. Guys, why don't you start adding me on Skype? My Skype ID is ChampionV, and we'll pull you into the call. You can ask your questions. Should we pull Kurt on?
Yeah, I think we should.
Okay,
I think it'd be really good to hear from.
Yeah. Let me pull him on real quick. I might have to fix the Kurt
is
the Check 6 player.
The Check 6 guy who basically made that thing fly.
He's part owner too, actually.
Yeah, no, I agree. And the sad part is that I don't think that Kurt's really gotten, I think, the credit that he deserves in esports. I think that, he's done so much great stuff over such a long time, and I don't really feel like people recognize that just because he hasn't been part of some team that's gone super, huge. But, I mean, he definitely deserves every bit of that accolade, I guess.
Yes, definitely.
Oh,
Kurt.
no, I don't. Oh, no, I don't.
Kurt is one of the good guys.
Kurt is definitely one of the good guys. For
Yes.
sure. Yeah.
I appreciate it, guys. How's everybody doing today?
Good.
Good.
Sorry, I'm
Better
fixing
than
the
you, I
screen.
think.
Fixing the screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Better than me. No, I mean,
I think we've all been there.
yeah, Frank, I know you have, buddy. I know you
Yeah.
have. No, yeah, you got your own little ESFI interview to account for, right?
Oh god.
Oh gosh.
No, I today's actually been a better day than I thought. I mean, once again, we've known about how things were going for really the past few weeks, and I've had time to sort of prepare my mind and body and all that stuff. It's just like Frank said. I mean, he knew how things were going with Rain, a few weeks ahead of time as well. But I really appreciate everybody's receptiveness today so far. I mean, everyone's been incredibly supportive, so that's good. That's good.
So, I mean,
yeah.
Kurt, you kind of elaborated in the ESFI article, but obviously it just came out, so a lot of people haven't read that yet. But, I mean, if you could nutshell it, what do you think I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Frank. What do you think is the big hurdle right now for the middle-sized teams, basically, I mean...
Well, no, see, number one, I think I could really talk about this for hours, and I
Please don't.
Not gonna do I know John and Chris just love when I talk for hours. There are a lot of hurdles. That's really the problem. Some of them are man-made. Some of them are organization-made. Some of the organizations make mistakes. Check 6 made mistakes. Rain made mistakes. Everyone has made mistakes. The problem is that traditionally speaking, organizations, and by traditionally speaking I mean in the olden days, organizations had an ability to make a mistake, learn from it, move on, and not do it again. Now either one or two things are happening. Organizations make a mistake, and they just die because of that mistake. They just, I mean, that's it, like, plain and simple. Or they make a mistake, and they either can't or won't fix that mistake because it's one that is popular to their business model. So what I mean by that is they keep spending and spending and spending, even though they don't have really the money. They're just sort of pulling it out of thin air and hoping that it works out. So there are really a lot of mistakes, and some of them, like I said before, are organizational mistakes, and some of them I think are the community. The problem is the community has given me and everyone at Check 6 a lot of shit for picking up some personalities, quote unquote. Picking up Julia, picking up Maximus Black, even at the time picking up Pain User as well. But here's the thing is for a year and a half, we had players that were up and coming. We had players that were GM. We were sending tons of players to events that were doing significantly well for what they were getting paid, for what they were doing, for the fact that they were full-time students. And yet we didn't have the numbers. And the reason we didn't have the numbers is because the community would not give them any attention. Despite us pushing, despite us doing contests, despite us doing content, it didn't matter. The community would not give them attention because they hadn't had that breakout performance yet. So what do you do when you have to have a way to find numbers to sell to a sponsor? Like, a sponsor's not going to say, hey, you have great up-and-coming players, let's give you some money. A sponsor's going to say, you have Maximus Black, who has 80,000 subscribers on his YouTube. That's what they're going to say, and that's what makes you give you money. Or you have Julia, who was the only Check 6 player up to that time to play on main stage. Did anyone know that? Like, we sent,
And she played against I Am Lucira.
We sent
it was Trounce.
Up to that time.
Oh, was it?
We probably sent 40 fucking players who upsetted players like the Muslim, TT1. A ton of players upsetted a ton of players, and that none of those got the chance to play on main stage in MLG. You know who did? Julia. So don't blame this on us. When it comes to that particular thing. So that's really the problem with the community, and it's not their fault. It's sort of just the way things are structured right now. So
lack of regulation.
Or lack of structure, period. But anyway,
well, Kurt, we all feel for you, buddy.
Yeah, and you did. You've been doing a great job forever now, dude. So it is unfortunate that Check 6 is, I guess, closing shop at least for the time being, right?
Yeah, once again, to quote Craig Levine, never say never, but for right now we're done. Yeah, I will let you guys go. I appreciate you bringing me on as usual. Frank, it's good talking to you again. We got to catch up, buddy.
Yeah, good talking to you too, Kurt.
Well, it's nice meeting you, man.
All right, thanks, Kurt.
Take care.
Well, guys, actually, I think we're gonna have to wrap up here soon because Frank, you got to get going, right?
I got about 10 minutes.
Yeah. So why don't we do some shout outs? Shout outs might take some time here. You want to start off, James?
Sure. I guess shout-outs to Mum. Well, maybe it's a bit late there, but she watches everything I do, so I'm
That's great,
my
dude.
brother's laughing in the background. That's nice. He's just appeared in Germany. I paid him for a trip to come over to Gamescom because I thought it'd be a cool idea.
Nice,
And then
nice
you know,
brother.
yeah, it's alright. So ESL and Mouse, they're very, very supportive of me in whatever I do, and as such have been able to keep me going. And also people like CSN and stuff like that. And you, John, you're a pretty cool guy, and it's been fun working with you in the past and stuff.
Yes.
I hope we get to work together.
Well, there will be more. There will be more.
Yeah, sounds good, man. Sounds good. So, yeah, that's me done.
Awesome. Frank?
So I'll give a big shout out to the best editorial team, or former editorial team, of MYM, Frequency, Elven Star, The One Crow, Phil. I know I'm forgetting people. This is awful. But they helped me get my start and taught me all about esports, and I wouldn't be here without them. That was the best online team that I've ever been a part of. And I have to give a huge shout out to Alex Kahn, who is now no longer with IPL, but who actually gave me a chance to come here and work for IPL out of all the 105 other people that applied for this job that I now have. He picked me, and that will always mean something to me. So thank you to him. And then shout out to all my coworkers who work here, Josh and Nick and Kevin and all the guys. This has been a great office environment for the year plus that I've worked here now. And I hope we can keep making good stuff over here because of them.
All right, awesome. Mark?
Well, I mean, obviously, I want to shout out to you fine folks for coming on the show. I think it's really great to have guests, of quality and who have so much experience and information to share.
Yep.
Of course, also want to shout out our sponsors who support our organization, Razer, Twitch TV, Machinima Versus, DV Vision, our partner StarTale, Asus Republic of Gamers, and also Red Bull for keeping our fridge full. And also I want to mention that since the show is ending, if you go to machinimalive.com, actually, right now, there is a huge Quantic live stream thing with our players, like Illusion and Flow, and some of our staff casting. So if you want to check that out, head on over there, and it looks like they're having a lot of fun, so, yeah.
Yeah, I think your players are just kind of, I think, making almost like analytical, I mean, almost being analysis, I think, with the casting or something like that, right? They're not playing, are they?
Well, actually, they're going from like bronze all the way up to like masters.
Oh, so they're actually playing. Okay, I was
and
watching.
They're doing like 2v2s.
Oh,
so
okay. Okay, gotcha.
It's interesting to see, but
interesting to see. Okay.
It's fun though. I mean, because it's like the players are actually commenting along the way. So like, Flo's
Right.
talking about this or Illusion, and Illusion's playing random, by the way.
Okay, cool. Well, very cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right,
Check
John.
it out, machinimalive.com.
Yeah, the links are. He just linked it in there, but all right, John. Actually, John, you want to make any kind of announcement today?
Oh, I suppose I can.
Or we can wait. We can wait till next week if you want. It's up to you.
No, I can mention it now.
Okay.
We'll start it. But no, I don't think I'm going to get in trouble for this because we've talked about it. We've let other people know. But CSN is the proud papa now of our very own studio / headquarters / training house. So we will be putting that all together over the next few months. I'll be doing some more painting and decorating and crap like that, which I thought I would not have to do anymore. But it's going to be pretty cool, I think. We're hoping to have a lot of content come from it and a lot of opportunities there for us to do some neat things. I mean, we're different than a team, so obviously what we're going to offer is going to be much different than what most teams offer. So I think it will just increase the sort of stuff that's happening in esports. I think that will be good.
Right.
And then shout-outs, I guess, is to CSN, of course, and to all of you. Thanks, Frank, and thanks, James, for being on the show. CSN is having, along with Quantic, we brought back the CSN All-Stars again. So that's happening tonight, and I'm not quite sure exactly the time. I posted the link a couple times, the Team Liquid link in the chat, so that should be pretty good. The production value on that is pretty decent, so
It's QXC and Golden,
definitely
guys.
check it out.
Yeah, QXC
Okay.
and Golden.
Yeah,
That's
Golden.
That should be good then. So,
And where's the house
I-
located, John?
it's going to be in Atlanta, Georgia.
Oh,
wow.
Georgia,
Exactly.
Georgia.
Exactly. Good stuff.
I can tell you one part of it's 1,600 square foot basement that's completely unfinished. So we'll have quite a bit of room to kind of design how we want to do it. For sure, we'll have a place for interviews and casting and studio type stuff, and then we'll also, what we're looking at is to have a place for players to play and be streamed and things like that. Maybe a Big Brother house is what you could say it is, but I don't want it to be that way. I definitely do not want it to be Jersey Shore like. It will. I think it will definitely be pretty serious, and we'll be able to do some neat things with it. I think so.
Some training there too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of like what we did with Violet, I think is the idea of what we can do with something like this, but maybe with more than just one person at a time. So
Right.
I think it'd be neat.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, I just want to note that three, not including myself, but at least three of the co-hosts here on this show actually have training houses now in NA. So we need definitely more of these type of training houses where it's more about just getting our NA players a lot better, and growing that. But yeah,
Who's up for a NA house rotation? That's what I think we need.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be really
Everyone
cool.
gets to check out each other's house.
Well, yeah, Machine.
Then like
There
we
you
send
go.
a player to your house, you send a player to
Yeah.
Complexity's house, Complexity sends a player to EG's house, EG sends
Yeah.
a player to our house. That'd be cool.
there you go.
Machine visited our house a few weeks ago, actually, for a week to train with
Oh, yeah, with
Axlab
Axlab.
again.
That was some
Yeah.
good. There's good sessions too there.
Nothing against all those houses, but I want to check out. I want to hang out at the Curse house. I don't know if you've all
Oh
saw
God, man, jeez! You
that. I want to
get
hang
so
out there in
nice
Beverly,
bikini parties?
Beverly Hills.
Yeah. No kidding. That Beverly
You
Hills
want to hang
house.
with Mia Rose at the Curse house?
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to be followed around by a camera crew all day, though. But I definitely would like to hang out there.
It's crazy. That's gotta cost an arm and a leg. It's crazy, but
Oh yeah, $2 million
yeah,
at least.
exactly.
Uh,
But big thanks to Frank and James for coming on. I mean, wonderful show. I mean, you guys provide some awesome insight, and hopefully you guys had a lot of fun too, because that's the name of the game, right? But
Yeah.
James, good luck this weekend. I'll be watching you. It starts tomorrow, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And actually, I forgot to do that shout out. Make sure to tune in to IEM, guys.
There you
Cast
go.
by me, Day9 Tasteosis, with the sickest open bracket I've ever seen.
Yeah, it
and
is
then
crazy.
The open bracket is better than the groups, I think. And
It's always better than the groups.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Well, I'm just kidding. But,
but no, going to be crazy. Long days, but and also, I don't know if I'm supposed to do this on your show, but it's only €5 or $6 for that HD pass for 5 days worth of games. That's pretty good. So
yeah,
There
that
you
sounds
go.
like a good deal. But yeah, definitely check him out. Support Carrol and everything he does, and also Frank too. Frank's behind the scenes now though, but everybody knows Frank though. But okay, guys, yeah, this is the VODs for this is gonna be a little different here. We're gonna I'll let folks know on Twitter like where the VODs will be. It's gonna be a little different this week, but they will be up by tomorrow, I promise. And yeah, that's gonna be it. Next week, who do we got next week? I gotta look. Man, let me look. Shoot, browser over everything. Sorry about this, guys. I usually have it ready and going, but I think it might be a non-star. Oh, we have Sase on next week, Mark, and I haven't lined
to
up.
come and talk to you about better playing games.
Exactly. He's going to talk to us about like how it is training in Korea and just being the badass player he is.
Him.
Yeah, and the reason, he was going to be on ProCon originally, but then we decided to do Climbing the Ladder because it suited him better, I think. So I'll get there's going to be another guest too. I just haven't lined him up quite yet. So yeah, so get ready for some Sase action next week, and yeah, that's going to be it.
Some Blink Micro.
Yeah, exactly. But all right, guys, that's going to be it for this week. We'll see you later. Peace.
I've
right. Thank you.